time. Batman and Robin. Peanut butter and jelly. What about coffee and caffeine? What would one be without the other? In this new era where coffee is much more focused in flavor, how does caffeine actually affect sensory perception of coffee? Although we simply assume that coffee and caffeine must always come together, some major sectors of the industry are naturally moving away from it. We have producers in Brazil who recently found 2 fungi strains that can degrade caffeine during post-harvest fermentation, while also cataloging new varietals that contain 0% caffeine. The Agronomical Institute of Brazil recently patented new technology in order to genetically crossbreed and develop more low-cap varietals. And finally, an article published in the Journal of Food and Science by the University of Cornell is what truly inspired me today as a coffee producer and barista, to share with you how we can increase our customer base by focusing on coffee's flavor and shifting the narrative away from caffeine. So the article details a study conducted with 107 people who are divided into 2 groups. The first group consumes coffee with normal levels of caffeine, while the second group consumes a caffeine-free coffee. After that, both groups go through multiple sensory perception tests, testing their ability to perceive sweetness, umami, bitterness, acidity, and saltiness. And incredibly, both groups only perceive a difference in their perception of sweetness. So the first group who consumes coffee with normal levels of caffeine has a lower perception of sweetness, while the second group has normal or even higher perceptions of sweetness. So the conclusion of the study was that the same adenosine receptors that get blocked by caffeine and keep us from feeling tired are also present in our palates. So as soon as caffeine touches our tongues, it hinders our ability to perceive sweetness. So my objective today as a barista, it's exactly the opposite. I'm gonna minimize your caffeine intake as much as possible, while also increasing your sweetness perception potential. So please start by drinking 2 sips of the water that I just served you. It's a water with a higher content of calcium and magnesium in order to fully cleanse your palate, while also resetting your adenosine receptors. You can refer into the big menu to your right for more information about adenosine receptors. The small menus in front of you contain all the information about my beverages today, along with flavor notes and recipes. So I'm gonna get my signature beverage started here, but please don't worry about this yet. I'm gonna explain it to you as soon as we get to it. So in order to bring you the low-caf experience today, I'm gonna be serving you the exotic varietal of Lorena. Lorena that naturally contains 0.3% caffeine. That is a quarter of the average Arabica varietal. This Lorena was produced by Café Granja La Esperanza in Valle de Cauca in Colombia at 1,700 meters. So I'm gonna get started with your milk beverage today, in which I modulated my milk specifically for this Lorena. As a barista, I see many new entrants in the coffee industry beginning their first experiences with milk, which is why I wanted to modulate the flavors to bring you more approachable and familiar flavor notes, like peach pie and tiramisu, so that we can increase our market base while also increasing consumption of coffee, since this is a low-caf beverage. I bring 2 types of milk today. The first is whole milk, and the second is 2% fat milk. Both milks go through freeze distillation process in order to decrease 30% of the water content. After that, I blend both milks for you in a composition of 60% whole milk to 40% lower fat milk. My objective here is very simple. I'm gonna increase sweetness and texture potential with the higher contents of carbohydrates and proteins, while also controlling total fat content so that it doesn't overpower the complexity of my espresso, while amplifying the sweetness of this Lorena. Now you're gonna take 2 sips of my milk beverage today. The first sip as soon as I serve you. On that first sip, you're gonna taste that flavor note of peach pie. For the second sip, please take the small spoon in front of you and stir 5 times in circular motions. And that's when you're gonna taste that flavor note of tiramisu. I'm gonna be serving my milk beverage today in a temperature of 50 degrees in order to bring you that rich and decadent experience of those 2 desserts. Right. So, another reason why I modulate my milk beverage today is because this Lorena goes through a natural fermentation process, fermenting the cherry for 48 hours. With this Lorena's 48-hour fermentation process, the simple sugars of the cherry are consumed and new organic acid is produced, increasing espresso acidity. So with the new innovations in coffee fermentation that could potentially decrease caffeine content while also increasing sweetness and acidity, it's important for us to modulate our ingredients, bringing these familiar flavor notes so that we can bring the opportunity of coffee for newer markets and new consumers. Please enjoy. So just reminding you, that first sip as soon as I serve you, and that second sip after stirring 5 times. The first sip, you're gonna taste peach pie, and on that second sip, that rich tiramisu. You can refer back to the small menus in front of you for the recipe and the flavor notes. Please enjoy. Please enjoy. Thank you so much for waiting. So judges, as a coffee producer, this Lorena truly inspires me to develop and produce more low-caf varieties, especially due to its high flavor complexity. As a barista, I always strive for lower bitterness in my beverages. And knowing that caffeine is a bitter compound in coffee, this Lorena with lower caffeine content is gonna have medium to high sweetness, medium to high acidity, and very low bitterness. I'll take this time to drink again 2 sips of water to fully cleanse your palate and reset your adenosine receptors. And write down the flavor notes of your espresso course. You're gonna take 2 sips of your espressos today. On that first sip, you're gonna taste passion fruit and white Moscato grapes, feeling a medium body. On the second sip, you're gonna taste mandarin with peach, with a juicy and coating texture and a long, pleasant finish of white sugar. I'm extracting my espressos in a recipe of 20 grams in to 58 grams out. That's the same recipe used throughout all my beverages today. Also, I extract my espressos in room temperature cups so that we can decrease the temperature quicker, increasing the sweetness, bringing those peach and mandarin notes. Now, we're not gonna drink these espressos yet. We're gonna wait for them to cool down further so that we can balance its sweetness and acidity. Please take this time only to evaluate the crema. So the new discoveries in low-caf varietals are truly fascinating. According to the Agronomical Institute of Brazil, in the absence of caffeine, there's more space in the chemical composition of coffee for beneficial compounds like simple sugars and vitamins, increasing complexity for these coffees. With its Lorina's 48-hour fermentation process, the simple sugars are turned into organic acids, bringing that juicy texture and that amazing tartaric acidity, proving that low-caf varietals have higher potential for flavor experience. Now, judges, please take the cupping spoon in front of you, stir 5 times back and forth, and enjoy those espressos. Now, judges, I'm so excited to share with you a new sensory experience with my Lorina. I'm gonna be serving you a coffee mocktail. Just like coffee without caffeine, cocktails without alcohol are purely focused on sensory experiences and combinations that bring flavor and flair. So being in this globalized market, I truly wish my beverage to be consumed everywhere else, which is why I've chosen 4 ingredients that are easily accessible and harmonize perfectly with my Lorina. So with the espressos that I extracted earlier, we have 20 grams of dehydrated coconut that was macerated with hot water and then filtered with a paper filter for 2 hours. The oils and the flavor of this coconut are gonna transform my beverage, bringing you milk chocolate notes and bringing you a coating texture. The second ingredient is 15 grams of dehydrated strawberry that was blended with the same water that I served to you today. The higher content of magnesium in that water is gonna increase that sweetness, while together with the strawberry and the espresso, we're gonna transform those white Moscato grapes into dark Concord grape notes. And finally, we have 30 grams of peach yogurt serum that was prepared by separating the solids from the liquids with a paper filter for 12 hours. This yogurt serum is gonna transform the citric mandarin notes into tropical fruit notes of ripe pineapple. And just like caffeine distracts us from tasting sweetness, I did not want to distract you today with the preparation of my beverage. But I added all my ingredients into this magnetic mixture with a heating plate. By increasing the temperature to 60 degrees in the last 8 minutes, we're able to increase its sweetness, unlocking all aromatic volatile compounds of the beverage. Also, homogenizing the crema of my espresso with the oils of my ingredients, bringing a heavier body and a beautiful coating texture. Finally, I'm gonna be serving my hot signature beverage into frozen cups. So just like the dynamic duo of Batman and Robin, I believe coffee's true sidekick should be flavor rather than caffeine. So together in this beverage with the hot and the cold, we're gonna transform into a warm beverage, bringing you higher sweetness and umami perceptions. I'm adding a Lorina cold brew smoke to bring you that flavor note of blackberry in this beverage. You're gonna take 2 sips. The first sip as soon as I serve you, and the second after I call my time. The first sip, you're gonna taste pomegranate, blackberry, while feeling the contrast of both temperatures, the cold lip into the cup, and the hot beverage in your mouth. Please enjoy that first sip. Now for that second sip, ripe pineapple, milk chocolate, and the dark Concord grape notes. Please enjoy that first sip. Here you go. Now, by considering my Lorina as a crucial ingredient for my signature beverage, I'm able to bring opportunity, not only for baristas, but other industry beverage professionals and new customers, since we can push higher demand of coffee regardless of the time of the day. I truly wish you enjoyed that second sip of Lorina, and thank you so much for your time.